Good evening, my dear friends. I hope you are well. I hope you had a very good and sound day. And I want to jump right into this, and I want to bring up somebody's question who I think is intriguing to me, and I want to read it to you, if you don't mind. Albania Hernandez says, where is Melania Trump? Why is she never with her husband? Specifically, yesterday, during the indictment, showing her support for her husband. Albania? Or Albania? That is one of the best questions ever. Why do you think that is, ladies and gentlemen? I think you're absolutely correct. I would say to President Trump, I want you to practice some things. First, how do you look when you walk into court? How do you... Pierino Fangulo. How are you? How do you look when you are innocent? Innocente. How do you look? How do you walk? How do you hold yourself? How do you walk? How do you appear? Remember, if you are ever arrested, never, ever, ever cover your face. Go like that. Hide your handcuffs. Never. Never do that. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not understand the level of, I don't know how this works. I don't know how the baby back ribs from Chili's. I want my baby back ribs. I don't know how you do this. Do you set up an account with Chili's? I don't believe Chili's would necessarily be advertising, but in any event, thank you very much. You want your baby back ribs. And I mean that sincerely. Thank you, Chili's. Thank you so much for that. Truly. I think that is the funniest, unless it's one of the cleverest means of cementing the image within the population. So my question is, how does one look? Where is Melania Trump? May I ask the ladies here? What is your impression of her? Be honest with me. What is, and let's be polite. But what is your impression of her? How important is her role? How critical is it for her to appear to be in support of her husband? How much do you think it would help the cause if you were to see more of her? This is an important thing. I love to hear what the ladies think. What do women think? Because he has a hard time trying to convey his particular worth and message among some women by virtue of the jean-pierre case. How do you think that works? Yes, Mark Lewis says, John Lennon to sing one more time. I heard one of the dumbest comments ever from 80-year-old Paul McCartney, who somehow thinks that AI is a good thing. Doesn't get it. Mrs. Jones says she is over all of politics and him. She's been through enough and is done, in my opinion. I think you very well could be correct. Ketchup says, I wouldn't want my wife to be with me when I go to the battlefield either. Diane says, I think she has had enough. I don't think she signed up for this. For appearance's sake, it would be better if she appeared with him, though. I agree. She never showed really much of any kind of connection during his presidency. I think that when you are Melania Trump and you know that you're marrying Donald Trump, you know what you are going to get. You know the story about Ivana. You know the story about the The second one, what the hell was her name? I don't remember. It's been a long day. I think you know what you're kind of getting into. And that may not be right, that may not be enough, but I think there are some people who do not. They live in different worlds. Marla Maples, thank you, Mrs. Jones. Haven't seen much from Don Jr., which is good. Keep that Kimberly away. Keep her away. Not good. Eric, we haven't seen too much of. Isn't it funny? We're not seeing a lot of these people. I don't know if that's good or not. I'm not sure. I do think, though, that one thing that Melania could have done, and she never did this, was that when she was First Lady, Abigail Adams, Lady Bird Johnson, Bess Truman, Florence Harding, I believe, right, who probably poisoned her husband. She could have been historically there. She could have been there. One thing that I always said that she should have done, and Mrs. L agrees, is she could have had a book, a kind of like a fashion, like a big Vogue or something, in which she has pictures and glossies and all of this stuff. And she could sell it, all the money going to Wounded Warriors or wherever it is, and you could show pictures of her at the White House with the tree and with the family showing you, like Jackie Kennedy. Jackie Kennedy knew exactly what she was getting into. When you marry John Kennedy, you know what you're getting. You know how these people are. They are rakes, roués. They are men who just say, listen, I'm going to have other women. In fact, remember the whole story with Stormy Daniels, who was just a trollop. A trollop. I believe, if I recall correctly, Melania was pregnant, right? You understand that? By the way, Eugene Rees here. Dick Long says, I think she was afraid of the attacks. Could be. Dick Bork says, they are all under protecting Democrat will hurt Trump elite are in chaos mode. They are all under protecting. I don't know what that means. I don't know what language that is. I don't know what you're trying to convey. But nonetheless, I appreciate what you've done. Diane says, Melania always comes off as aloof, distant. He married her for arm candy, sort of to add some polish to his profile. With AI, they will be able to prosecute Trump ad infinitum. Yes, I think, you know what? This is the part I don't understand. Can you work with me on this? Okay. I'm a very simple person. I'm a very, very simple, real basic when it comes to certain things. Friends. I was raised in a world where you married somebody because you loved them. Maybe it didn't work out, maybe whatever, but you married somebody because you loved them. That was the idea. You don't marry somebody for arm candy. I don't even know what the hell that means. And the reason why is that they know it's arm candy. You see, when you're a billionaire and you've got some 24-year-olds say, what are you doing? I don't understand that. You know, everybody knows this isn't real. They're here with me because of, whatever. Same thing if you're Leonardo DiCaprio. And by the way, without mentioning anybody in particular, so many, you will not believe the number of people in Hollywood who are gay, who are closeted, and who make deals with women to provide beard service. Now, I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds, why would anybody want to do that today when we seem to be so incredibly open when it comes to different things? I don't know. But arm candy, nobody's buying that. Nobody's buying that. I don't know. I just, when you say, okay, that's a nice car, that's a nice house, that's a nice this, that's a nice that, but the wife, you bought the wife. I'm not saying he bought her. What I'm saying is, but I don't get it. That's why I don't. I don't fit in. I don't understand this. And let me tell you something right now. Listen to me and listen good. And I'm going to say something to you. And this is something that people don't want to talk about, but I'm going to say it. And I might be incorrect in saying this, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it. Especially when people say, oh, I'm a woman. No. To be a woman, really a woman, you have to have a mind. You have to have that sense of protection. And with that, a certain degree of predation that comes along with this. What do I mean? What am I talking about? Number one, no matter what you say, no matter what anybody thinks, nature has provided that you are going to be the ones protecting the brood. Theoretically, whether you have children or not, it's another story. But that innate, and this is not just you, but the lioness, everybody, all of them. When you have the accoutrement, the uterine accoutrements for birth and everything, and the hormones, and this, whether you have, I don't care if you're whatever your sexual preference is. If you are a woman, Liz says it right, you have instincts. You have things you don't even realize. And one of the things is that there is an incredible, please don't take this the wrong way. You're vicious. And you have a higher degree of knowing predation, where the predator is for you and your brood. A man is a different story. It's a different story. In the animal, there's a few exceptions here and there, but for the most part, it's the woman who was that. A woman has an incredible sense of not only this, but territory. Have you ever had the most wonderful thing is to see two women of the same age meeting each other, not older women. When women become the greatest is when they hit grandma stage. That's when they're the most beautiful you've ever seen in your life. That's when women are the greatest. When all of that, the hell with this gone. And you really get to see the core of who they are. Grandmother, when I say grandmother, it could be 60. I mean, but when they get out of this stop acting like a girl thing, they're the greatest. They are so refined. They are the ultimate. Funny, smart, because all that's over with. All of that nonsense. But two women roughly younger meeting each other, it's the most incredible thing. You will never see anything. This is worth National Geographic. This is like seeing David Attenborough, seeing them. And now they're surrounding each other. Now they're... You think I'm kidding? You think I'm being sexist? I'm not. I've seen this before. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. And with that, I would have a group. I would have what's the word? A focus group to see what do you think about this. Women are incredible. Incredible. That's all I'm going to say. Now, the next thing you knew, I think you heard the word. There is the Marine was indicted, we believe, for second-degree manslaughter. That key is going to be negligence. Was the homicide the result of negligence? Reckless, that kind of a thing. It's going to be a very, very simple thing. In fact, let me see something right here. This is important. New York manslaughter, second degree. I believe it is... recklessly causes the death of another person. Reckless. Were you reckless versus careless? These words mean a lot. So that is a little early. We will be figuring that one out. Next, I want you to think very carefully and to watch what is going to be interesting, and I hope we have a conversation as to the Espionage Act. Remember, what Trump is really charged with is not the Espionage Act, but the Presidential Records Statute. By the way, anybody new here tonight? Is there anybody new? Is there anyone new tonight? May I ask this first question? Is there anyone? Because I'm just curious who finds their way into this, because there's something interesting about having a live stream. Sometimes people do a live stream and they don't even pay attention to you. It's like, what am I here for? Why am I? Unless to talk to other people, but I want to engage with you. Like Mr. Fanculo over here. Like Victor, like Dick Long. Who's new? And also, what's very important is I love doing this. If you've never done this before, it's beautiful. I love to say we haven't done this in a while. Kind of a roll call. Roll call. Is there anyone new tonight? Thank you, Jack. Thank you. Anyone nude? Any new? Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's do a roll call. Where are you from? City and state. City and state. City and state. What is the name of your city? The actual name of your city, as in the mail comes to this address. Not your address, of course, but just the city. Where is it? I think this is fantastic. Because I love to see this idea of where where as we speak, all these people, it's like we're a bar at the corner, and we're enjoying each other's company. Jupiter, Florida. Jupiter used to be always, Jupiter was Burt Reynolds' character. By the way, Walmart, thank you. Don't be afraid to put a little pep and color in your step this year, and there's no better way to do it than with a 24-pack of Crayola crayons for $50. 50 cents, I should say, at Walmart. Live better, Walmart. Thank you, Walmart. Thank you so much. I thank you for that. Very kind, very kind. Walmart, where are you from, if you don't mind me asking? Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Myrtle Beach, I was listening to a Randy Owen commercial or interview from Alabama, from Myrtle Beach. Palm Coast, Florida. Cincinnati, Ohio. Tulsa, Miami. Olympia, Washington. Keystone, Colorado. Novi, Michigan. O'Fallon, Missouri. I'm at the Spanish Peaks in Colorado. Richfield, Minnesota. I love this. Burt Reynolds signed a hot dog bun in Toledo, Ohio. Thank you so much, John. And by the way, John, thanks for sharing. Seriously. Thank you through your incredible lyricism to take us there. Homosassa. Oh, I've been there before. Portland, Maine, as opposed to Oregon. Little May, the moon. Walmart from the moon. Thank you, Wall. Sadie's in Largo, Pinellas County. Corby, Great Britain. How are you, Finn Gazinia? Thank you so much. Victor Abreu. I remember him. Do you see where Trump went to Versailles? Beaver Crossing, Nebraska. Walmart is from the Walmart. Good people, Walmart. Good people. Nothing wrong with that. Trump apparently went to, I think it was Versailles. I think I read. See, I loved growing up in Florida. I loved in Tampa Cuban food. Knew it all my life, and it was. And before it got hip, I loved it. Palomilla empanizado, puntas de filete salteado, arroz con pollo, arroz amarillo, frijoles negro, morros y cristianos. That's, if ever you want something great, here's something interesting. Can of black beans, white rice, mix it up. The Moors and the Christians, black and white. Augusta, Georgia. Burt Reynolds signed the hot dog bun at an almost 100-year-old hot dog shop called Tony Pacos, yeah, on Front Street in Toledo. Tony Pacos, of course, was made famous by Jamie Farr in MASH, of course. I was at the Versailles yesterday with the Commander-in-Chief. Yes. I hear he picked everybody's tab up. I don't know if that's true, but Cuban food is so wonderful. Caldo gallego. I loved, when I was eating a lot of meat, meat, but still picadillo. I loved, croqueta de jaiba. Do you ever have you ever had, Victor, have you ever done, croqueta completa? Have you ever had that guava with, with cream cheese on on a cracker? Guava and cream cheese? Crema español, most people don't make that. Flan, I ate that stuff like you. Heading to West Tampa in the morning. West Tampa. Boliche Boulevard. That was my stomping ground. That was it. Great food there. I think that, what was the name of that place? I don't remember. Oh, Ropa Vieja, old clothes. It was actually kind of a shredded meat thing. It's wonderful, wonderful. Plátanos. Cuban sandwich to me. One of the things I've always wanted to do, if I came to your town, I know we were going to talk serious stuff, but I want to ask you a question. If I came to your town, and forget diet and all this stuff, but if you said, this is the thing you've got to come, this is what we have in our town, and the smaller the better, that everybody knows, everybody loves, this is the famous, like Tony Paco's, or maybe Frank Pepe's in New Haven. By the way, that whole New Haven pizza thing, Abit's, incredible. Queso con guayaba pastelito, the best. Cheese, yes. Cheese with a little bit of cheese. I never got into that cheese thing. But let me tell you something. That is wonderful. Café Cuba, Cuban coffee, where you dip the Cuban bread in the coffee. And we have the café con leche, which is... Now, I'm going to say something to you, Miami friends. You're not going to like this. I like Tampa's Cuban bread better. I'm sorry. And if you ever want to hear somebody argue, wait till you hear somebody talk about the origins of the Cuban sandwich versus a Cuban mix versus the misto. It's complete. You can go on and on and on and on about that. Mahi. Is that what you're trying to say? Water girl? Mahi. One thing which is so funny, when you get into something, I had the best feud in Havana, never forget it. It's funny, I have a real hard problem with going to Havana. I just don't ever want to do that. I don't know why. I just don't want to. It's a lot of heartache for friends of mine, the families that was their home, and I don't want to do that. In any event, who's trumped out? I'm a little trumped out today, be honest with you. I'm a little trumped out. Kind of had it. I'm getting a little bit, sometimes I gotta kind of back up a little bit. Back up. You know what I mean? That's all. I cannot believe the amount of criminality that I'm seeing with the Biden family, and I don't know what to, I don't know what to do. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Dick Long says bread has to have the palm leaves. Oh, yes. It's funny you say that. Believe it or not, in Cuban bread is a wonderful long, very long. Some Cuban bread, this is the real good stuff, you got to be careful, is made with lard. Oh, my God, is that good. And at a place in Tampa called... La Segunda Central. They have a palm leaf that they split they put it in the middle so that it's kind of spreads like this. And the first time Mrs. L had Cuban bread, I said, "You're not going to believe this stuff." So we had a rental car, drove to Tampa, and we ate, I think, an entire loaf, one of these long things, with crumbs everywhere. It's the most incredible thing in the world. I don't know why. It is so perfect. I am in love with bread. Okay? It's the most incredible thing in the world when you look at how many things are done with bread. I know you're probably saying, this is not the kind of show I wanted to do tonight. And I understand it. I wanted to talk about Trump, and I understand it. I wanted to talk about what's going on in this world. This guy's talking about bread. What the hell's going on here? What is going on here? He's talking about bread. I can't help it. Sometimes certain things fascinate me. And I could just talk forever. I watch videos constantly about bakeries. I don't necessarily want to eat it. I'm just fascinated by everything that there is. Have you been to a Chinese bakery yet? Dear God. Your Candida loves bread too. Ah, Candida, you mean as in yeast infections? You mean like candidiasis? You mean like that? Interesting. Anyway, my friends, I'm sorry. I'm really letting you down. I know you were serious. You wanted to do this stuff, and here I am. I'm talking about bread. I'm sorry. I apologize. Big story, indictment circus. I'm bored with that. Jack Smith. Kevin Spacey interview. Media turned me into a monster. Well, don't know about that. Don't know about that one. Starbucks ordered to pay $25 million to a manager fired for being white. Poll support for abortion hits record high. We'll see about that. Marine arrested in firebombing of Planned Parenthood. Well, should be. You shouldn't be firebombing anything. Murdoch and conservative rivals circle Spectator and Telegraph. Let me see. Rise in LSD casualties. Grand jury indicts Penny in New York City. I told you that. Yeah, that's the great Marine, the Good Samaritan and hero. Synthetic human embryos created in groundbreaking advance. Not good. Social Security targeted for cuts by House conservatives. That is the kiss of death. If you do that, you are sealing your fate. You do that and you're done. Finished. You're done. That's all. That's all. Can't say it any other way than that. Let me see this. Tony Bourdain says it's all about the bread. Bourdain, how many people believe his story? I would investigate that again. I don't feel good about that story. Don't feel good about that. How many days was he left in that really nice hotel? I just don't buy. I want to see the autopsy report. I'm going to see. Can I check that again? I'm not feeling good about it. I don't feel good about that one. Never felt good about that. Sorry. See, one thing about being a detective is you have to at least look and see and ask yourself, does this story make sense to you? This is why it's also, women are very good detectives. Very good. Women are very, very good. There's something wrong with that. Gut biome is the theater of World War III. Don't know what that means, Jacob, but thank you so much. Adam Schiff skates around censorship resolution. Union City, New York used to have fabulous Cuban food. You know, it's funny. I have not been there in a long time. Thank you for that. Let me see. Yeah. I don't believe the Bourdain story either. Listen, I don't buy that. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. And that's why I like Michael Baden a lot. Used to be a great friend. I think he might have had not him, but I think his handlers may have had a falling out. I've had a lot of people who just kind of dump me because they think I'm some kind of Trump lover or something. If you listen to what I'm saying, I just say what I feel. And if Trump's great, But Michael Baden was the thing that's the most interesting. And I've always wanted to know, when somebody dies, the body's telling you, it's like, I can't speak. Please follow through with this. Know what to look for. Look at the scene. Is there something wrong with this? What's wrong with this? Guy was in good shape or this and that. Why did he die? Well, remember, whenever somebody dies from, there was one the other day, what was it? Sexual asphyxiation, autoerotic asphyxiation. Sometimes I'm thinking the easier it is to cover up, the more I'm going to be really interested. You'd be surprised the number of people who died, they say, from hot loads. I'm not going to mention it, but there are these things called the blinds and gossip stories that always turn out to be true. They're not part of the usual news. And consequently, the number of people who might have been iced, the first thing you always ask is, when somebody dies suddenly, what did they leave? If somebody's just a regular Joe and they say, okay, that's interesting. But if somebody said, wait a minute, it's like whenever like Prince dies, Michael Jackson, anybody, Whitney Houston, I always want to say, look into that one. Tell me that story again. Who found her? What was she doing? What did they say? And it's probably okay. But it's the first thing I would think of was like, if there's something about it that makes you think, you know what, I'm not, whatever it is. There's something that was weird. And people will always say, well, here's one for you. Do you know how many people are thrilled, not thrilled, but with Berlusconi dead? How many people are thinking, whew, man, do you have any idea of how depraved the world is? Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea of how depraved it is? See, people like you and me, we don't understand this. We have no need for this. Depravity, there's nothing, we have no interest in this. By the way, Crooner by Trade says, need a crooner for those special occasions? Crooner by Trade has your back. Call us today for all your crooner needs. Crooner by Trade. We're always sentimental. Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that immensely. You're very kind. But there's always something, Have you ever seen, does death bother you? I think it is the most fascinating thing in the world. And do you know what I find fascinating? May I tell you? The process is very easy. One of the most important books I ever read in my life was written by Victoria Newland's father. And Sherwin Newland, he was a surgeon, I believe at Yale. Yeah, by the way, very, very depressed in his life and later had ECT, I think it was electroshock, which helps people tremendously. And the process is very simple. There's really nothing to that. And if somebody says, well, why did they die? It's always, well, his heart stopped. But we are an obligate aerobe, and it's a lack of oxygen. That's the reason for it. It's oxygen. But what is interesting, if you have ever, and I've never seen this, but I've heard about this. When someone dies, at that moment, when the heart stops, everything stops. And it takes that look, the color, the pallor, the life is the spirit, the life, the soul, the life force. It fascinating. You can see it. You can see that look of gone. The life is gone. That spirit. It's not about a heartbeat. Yeah, it is, and but that's not it. There's something about that. And where does that go? It went someplace. I don't want to get mystical, magical, and mysterious with you, but where does it go? Where? I'm fascinated by this. I am just, and I'm not talking about the religious soul. There's a Max Planck, Penrose, and University of Texas physics professor believe that there's something microtubules using quantum mechanics. That microtubules, a protein-based actual piece, is a repository of our information, and that we, our essence as humans, traverses, it takes off, it transports. There's some place. I love that. Do you know why John says something strange going on with the Lionel camera, the color spectrum? You know why? It's the shirt. This color. I have another one too. If I wear white or black, it's fine. This color, it changes. The hues, the skin color, it's the color. I like that. John's very upset about that. Angelica Creek says, I find it curious that famous folk newscasters that were investigating child sexual predation and sexual trafficking have mysteriously hanged themselves or died of heart-related issues at their career peak. Some of them indeed did. Absolutely. It is the number one form of trafficking there is. If I want to buy something, let's say I want to make this. This is cocaine. We've got to go to Colombia. It's not indigenous here. Don't know why. Coca leaves, you think, what's with the leaves? Sorry. Certain places, you got to make it. Okay. Then you got to pay people off. Then you got to prepare it. Then you got to package it. Then you got to transport it. Then you got to pay people off. And you got to try. It's a pain in the neck. And then you get here and you make your big score. And then you go back. And what do? You start all over again. But take a person. And this person is as good as long as it's alive. And now, Mrs. L will tell you, they're getting younger and younger and younger and younger and younger. And when you hear what people make, when you hear it, it's ungodly. That's just one. And what happens is, when it gets to the point when, let's say, somebody is unable to continue whatever it is, then we get into something which we'll talk about, maybe not now, but it's called harvesting. And that's a little bit more sophisticated, but that's a different story. The money will astound you. And just like anybody can tell you, it's just like when you... Have you ever seen the way the Germans in particular, they have pork processing? Everything. The snout, the tail, the ear, the skin, the this, the that, everything but the oink. They use everything. That's kind of what this is. And it's so strange. I'm not going to read your name. It says, I have encountered a third dimension experience and received a visitation from my loved one during my most vulnerable moment. That has happened before. I find it curious. Oh, yeah. I've heard this as well. You see, what I wish people would do is I wish we could talk about this. And there are people, by the way, talking about child predation. There are people, and I don't want to mention their names, but I find them despicable. And what they do is, they hit on a key word involving the word pedophile. And once they get into it, oh my God, the numbers start pouring in and they just go over and over, over and over. And they just let me see. There is a... I don't want to get into it, but if you ever wanted to get into the notion of chronophilia, the idea of somebody who is attracted by different ages, geronophilia, older people, hebephilia, pedophilia, ephebophilia, there's all different forms of people who are attracted, or I shouldn't say attracted, but who are either fixated or attracted, whatever it is. And I would venture to say that these are things, these are depraved behaviors that have been going around for a long time. But when you have the internet, it changes everything different. It changes it drastically. And what you're also finding out, which nobody wants to talk about, is what is really making the rounds now is live performances. Harder to find. And you would think to yourself, there cannot be a big enough audience for this, and there is. So how do you explain? How do you explain? And I've always wanted to know this. How do you explain somebody who actively, and we're not going into too much detail here because you can understand, but somebody who actively enjoys seeing the almost medieval suffering of another human being? How do you explain that? It's sadism, but how do you explain that? What was it about? And this is the part where when anybody tells me, oh, we're a good people, well, mankind is capable of things you can't imagine. And history is replete with examples of some of the most horrific behavior ever. And when you ask, why did you do this? Just explain it. You've never heard the real Ted Bundy chronicles. You've never heard what Ted Bundy really did. You never heard it. It will curl your hair. And you have to ask yourself, how is it that people who share our DNA can think like that? What is it? And is it something that happens to you in your life that makes you do that? Is it an event that triggers you, that sets you off? Or can this happen just normally? And if we could find out really how depraved people are in general, I think we would be disgusted, because I think many people actually believe in the fantasy that mankind is good. I'm going to leave it right there. You understand that? It's a subject I don't think a lot of people want to get into. But you will never understand normal unless you understand abnormal. When I mean normal, I mean what is accepted. And you'll never understand what love is unless you understand how people enjoy the depraved black arts of sadism. It's incredible. I want to know, how did you do that? What were you thinking? And people would tell you, you know what? It's the easiest thing I've ever done. That's what's fascinating. Well, let me thank you. Let me thank you so much. Crooner by trade, you're so wonderful. Thank you. Walmart, thank you. Chili's, thank you as well. And I think Wendy's was very nice as well. Thank you so very much. So very kind. Please make sure you sign up for there's a newsletter coming up, a new one. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like it. Thank you for being a part of this. Let me enjoy these wonderful little excursions. Perhaps they might, to many people, seem a bit desultory, a bit elliptical, a bit circuitous, but that's the way I am. And you love it, and that's why you're here. All right, dear friends, have a great and glorious day. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock a.m. Have a terrific day then. We wish you the best. Until then, this is your new best friend, Lionel, reminding you, the monkey's dead, the show's over, sue ya. Ta-ta.